Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of Knitting Through the 1800s. If you're new here, hi, I'm Tessa and I am very interested in Victorian knitting patterns. I've also always been pretty scared of them. If you've ever read a Victorian knitting pattern or watched someone tackle one on YouTube, for example, you know that they can be incredibly vague, confusing and size exclusive. Then last year, to kind of prepare myself for those vague patterns, I worked my way through the 1900s, one decade at a time in my previous knitting series, Knitting Through the 1900s. I've now come back in time on one more century and am working my way through the 1800s, and again, just one decade at a time. In the first episode, we tackled the 1890s with a pattern for a vest from 1892. There it is. And it was an interesting experience for sure. But I'm really happy with the end result and I didn't completely lose my mind in the process, so that's good. Today it's time for the 1880s. And we are sticking with the theme of last episode and we are making something to keep me warm. Specifically, my knees. Because the pattern I picked is for kneecaps. Which is maybe strange, but I have knee issues and the cold makes it worse, so I thought it would be useful to make these kneecaps to keep my knees extra warm in the winter. Also, I couldn't really find other patterns I liked, so it's a win-win. And the pattern is from Knitting and Crochet, a guide to the use of the needle and the hook, edited by Jenny June. And oh my god, I just love the front cover of this, by the way. It's amazing. And I'm also very excited because this project is worked in the round. In the last episode, I used my straight needles, which were kind of annoying, and I'm a circular needle kind of person. But for this project, I have to use DPNs, which will be slightly less annoying because they are shorter than straight needles from the previous episode. Now, don't get me wrong, I still prefer circular needles over DPNs any day, but at least it's a slight improvement. For the yarn, I had some of this Rob's Fable in my stash, so I decided to use that. It's in shade 104, a really nice rich purple shade. And in true Victorian fashion, it's a really thin yarn, which also means I'll use tiny needles again. This is 2.75. Now, of course, the pattern doesn't tell you what size needles to use or even which yarn weight. So I figured out the gauge based on stitch count and my measurements, and this yarn should work with these 275 needles. Also, in true Victorian fashion, there is no sizing information whatsoever. But again, after some calculations, I should be fine with the pattern as is. We will see. Let's start working on this. We are going to work these kneecaps two at a time to avoid second sleeve syndrome, or in this case, second kneecap syndrome, I guess. Now, luckily, I have two sets of DPNs in this size, a shorter set and a longer one. And I did some testing on the shorter set and I think it will be okay. I can fit the stitches on there without them falling off if I just work carefully. I first need to cast on 114 stitches and join in a round, and then work 47 rounds of just a simple 2x2 rib. For the cast on, I'll be using the German twisted cast on to make sure that it's stretchy enough. And on each of the 3 needles, I need to cast on 38 stitches. And I like to have a knit stitch at the end and the beginning of a needle. So I need to arrange them so that the knit columns are at the needle changing position, if that makes sense. Then I will also have the beginning of a round in the middle of the needle, because I find that more convenient than having it at the start of the needle. So I'll have to arrange these stitches so that I have them exactly how I want them to be. And then we will start the 2x2 rib. Then once the 47 rounds of the rib are done, we have to do some shaping to make the gore for the knee. So it may get a little less simple then, depending on how clear the instructions are. I haven't really read that far ahead yet, so it's going to be a surprise for all of us. But that's a problem for future me. Present me is going to get a cup of tea, get comfy, and work 47 rounds of 2x2 rib. Also, yes, I still have my Christmas tree up, and this video is going to be released, I believe, in February, but I have to start this video pretty early, so it's Christmas time when I'm doing this intro. So yeah, you'll probably see a lot more Christmas stuff during this video. So here we are. I finished one round of ribbing, and for a second I thought I had messed up because I started with 2 knit stitches at the beginning of round, but I also ended with 2 knit stitches at the end of the round, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I didn't do anything wrong because 114 divided by 4, so 2 purl, 2 knit, is 28.5. So yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. We are just going to have 4 knit stitches next to each other at the back, I'm guessing. I also, ta-da, started working on a second one and just did the exact same as I did on the first one. So cast on 114 stitches using the German twisted cast on and worked 1 round of the rib. Now I'm just going to keep working on these for 47 rounds, like I said earlier. And what I think I will be doing is work 10 on one and then 10 on the next. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10 until we get to 47. And then obviously the last set will be 7 on this one and 7 on this one. I think that's going to be the most convenient way to go about this. So let's do it. The 47 rounds of the 2x2 rib are done. It took a while. It's a little bit annoying, but ribbing is not my favorite knitting technique kind of situation. So it's kind of unfortunate that honestly most vintage and Victorian knitting patterns have a lot of ribbing. But I made it. You may have noticed that for one of them I switched the short needles that I was working with for longer ones because I was getting dangerously close to slipping stitches off the end of the needle. So I got myself another set of longer needles to make sure that doesn't happen. So we are now ready to start working on the knee gore. And I've done some prep work. You may notice that I have 4 needles on each of these. That's because I already divided the stitches to where I need them to be, kind of. Because in the pattern, they want you to start working on the gore at the beginning of the round, I think. I mean, the wording is a little bit confusing, but I think that's what they want me to do. However, at the beginning of the round, I have 4 knit stitches next to each other. So I was planning on making that the back of the kneecap. So we're not going to start there. I did some calculations and I found where I need to start working the gore. So that if the gore is in the front, then the column of 4 knit stitches will be in the middle, in the back. So I did that, and now I just need to make basically a diamond shape. And I need to take 1 stitch from the non-gore portion and add it to the gore portion at the end of each row, so that it slowly grows and grows and grows. And then once I've reached the amount of stitches that I need, we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to leave out a stitch at the end of the gore section each time we reach the end, and then go back down to the original stitch count, I think. And we are going to do this in a, would you call it a moss stitch? a kind of like a 2x2 moss stitch. So we are starting with the same rib pattern as we are working with now, but then we are going to switch after 2 rows and we're going to purl the knit stitches and knit the purl stitches. And then repeat, repeat, repeat. So it's a moss stitch, but in sets of 2, I think. At the beginning I thought maybe this would be where it would get difficult or confusing, but I read through the instructions. The wording may be a little bit confusing, but I think I know what I'm doing. So I'm still feeling pretty good about this, and let's keep going. So here we are. The gore is now halfway done. So I've kind of distributed the stitches differently so that this entire gore section is on these 2 needles. This is just a non-gore section, if that makes sense. And now I just need to work my way back in reverse. So at the end of each row I need to leave out one of the stitches. Yeah, just reverse what I just did. It's looking, let's just say, interesting. I feel like it's going to look much better once I've done the second half. I will say in the product image, not product image, but the pattern photo drawing, I guess. But in the pattern illustration, there's a more defined line between the ribbing here and then the gore section. Obviously, you're not going to get that with this method, so I think in the end I'll just crochet an edge around it to make it a bit more defined. But it's still going great, no big issues yet. And now I'm just going to work the second part of the gore. And then we are back to doing another 47 rounds of this ribbing. I finished the gores. It looks a little bit strange right now on the needles like this. Hopefully it will look slightly better. Oh, so all my batteries are dead. Let's do this really quick. It looks strange. Hopefully it will look better now. Now I just need to do the same as I did on the first part. 47 rounds of that 2x2 rib. I did run out or almost run out of this yarn, so I ordered more. Until that arrives, I'm just going to work on this one. Okay, that was really quick. I do still have some battery left, but I've just said everything I wanted to say in this update. I finished the knitting portion of the kneecaps. I tried them on earlier and I had to laugh really hard because it's quite interesting. I'm not going to show you what I'm talking about yet. You have to wait for the reveal to see why I thought it was really funny. But I think you can kind of tell already. But they're interesting. That's what I'm going to say now. I've also worked a kind of embroidered, I believe, chain stitch or something like that. I have no idea. I just tried something around the gore section to make this line a little bit more defined, you know. And I think it's okay. Now I need to work on the crochet edge around the top and the bottom. And for that, they want me to do an Afghan stitch. And I looked it up. From what I understand, an Afghan stitch is just what we now call Tunisian single stitch, I believe. So it's Tunisian crochet. And for that, I got a Tunisian crochet hook. Not just for this, by the way. I've been wanting to try it out for a while. So somewhere in the future, we'll probably try it out together here on my channel. For now, I just need to do something really simple. I've looked up how to do it and I think I understand. So I need to work a chain of, I don't remember how many stitches, I need to look it up. I just first need to work a chain and I need to work, I think, 1 row Afghan / Tunisian crochet. And then I also need to do something with chain stitches in between to create little loops, I think. I'm just going to try. So I have to make 4 of these because they are just worked separately, flat, and then sewn on later. And once that is done, we can go to the reveal and you can see why I I think these things are kind of funny. First, I'm going to try Tunisian crochet. Wish me luck. Well, in the words of Taylor Swift, are you ready for it? Because I don't think you are. You know, it's actually less bad when I bend my knee, but standing up, it's quite interesting. The gore is definitely way too big, too poofy, but it's fine. I wasn't planning on wearing these visibly anyway, so they will just be worn under longer dresses and skirts. And I may fix it a little bit by seeing if I can take it in a little bit, but you know, it's definitely interesting. Let's just say that. So, let's talk about these for a little bit. Because, yeah, as you just saw, the gore section is huge. So it looks a little bit strange when I'm wearing it, but I may at some point see if I can make that smaller, either take it in or maybe gather it up at some point. I'm not sure, but like I said, I'm just planning on wearing these underneath long skirts and dresses so you don't really see them. I just want them to be nice and warm, which they are. I also ended up only sewing the crochet edge to the bottom edge of the kneecap because I did it on the top edge of one of these and I couldn't put it on, which is interesting because I already had a feeling that would happen, so I crocheted a much longer chain than I was supposed to, but it still was too short. There's also hair caught in this. Anyway, so I only sewed it to the bottom edge, which means I made two of these that I didn't really need to. I will say, oh my god, why is there always hair stuck in my crochet? I do think the edge is really, really cute. This was my first attempt at Tunisian crochet and I would really like to do more. So that's definitely going to be something that will, so that definitely will be happening in the future. But for now, yeah, I wouldn't say this has been a complete failure, but it's not what I was hoping for. It's still wearable, it's still fine. I do think it's not a me problem, kind of. I followed the instructions, I just feel like maybe the pattern just wasn't that good. Or I did something wrong, but I really don't think I did. So this has actually been the first time in both this series and the previous 1900s one where I didn't end up with what I thought I would. Which is actually not that bad, because I went through the entire 1900s and the 1890s before I got to something that didn't turn out the way I was hoping it would turn out, so it's fine. I'm going to wrap up this decade here. I think I've said everything I wanted to say about these. It doesn't always work out. That's okay. Just gotta learn from it and move on, which we'll be doing. Next time we're doing the 1870s, which I'm very excited for. I've picked out the pattern and I'm so excited to get started on that one. And for now, thank you for watching. Feel free to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the other episodes in the series. Have a great day and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.